That was not a common Bengals W, and my audio is playing on that side of the studio. I'll be right back so I can nuke this shit. My God. Here we go. Common Bengals W. Fuck! That's what happens when I'm so anxious to record. It's a good thing I didn't record last night. Professional setup I have here. So for those of you that are watching and like, what the hell just happened? I have a studio right over here to my left, and I have this studio right here that I often use for Bengals stuff. Didn't even set up my here. Hold on, let's get this fucking decor up here. Make sure it's who gives a shit? Who gives a shit at this point? Pardon the language. I try to keep it clean over here. I'm Sean Ross Sapp, wearing the black and orange. It's the FTW shirt because that's how I'm feeling today. So, Cincinnati Bengals lose to the New England Patriots, home opener, open in orange. I went out looking like a traffic cone, like a pumpkin. For what? For the same woefully unprepared stuff that the Cincinnati Bengals put forth every year. There is a lot to talk about, a whole lot to talk about. The Cincinnati Bengals lost to one of the worst teams in the NFL. I'll tell you what I don't want to hear. They do this every year. They'll be fine. No, this should not be a thing every year where you bank on losing 2 out of your first 4 games. It absolutely not. The New England Patriots, this was a part of that last place schedule that the Bengals possess. That's why they're facing so many bad teams at the beginning of the year, is because the NFL, as a competitive balance situation, puts a lot of the last place teams against one another. That way, some of them will be forced into winning. Well, the New England Patriots won. They had a good run game. The Cincinnati Bengals defense was stinky in the first half. And the second half, they greatly improved. But at some point, you have to take a look at the coaching staff, the front office, and the culture in totality and say, why is it that every single year the Cincinnati Bengals are underprepared, unprepared, and woefully unprepared at that? Joe Burrow every year misses a camp, blah, blah, blah. Even this year, he wanted to play more. Bengals said, nah, not happening. T. Higgins didn't get to play this game. Amarius Mims was injured. Chris Jenkins was injured. McKinley Jackson injured. So that hurt their depth at defensive line. Lots of injuries. I think that comes down to being woefully underprepared. Jamar Chase, they didn't know if he was going to play. We didn't know if he was going to play. They couldn't get a contract done. He didn't practice. Woefully underprepared. The conservative game planning is no longer conservative. It's cowardly. I'll let you in on a little secret. If you go back and look at why it is the Cincinnati Bengals, whether it be Joe Burrow or Jake freaking Browning, lead the league in completion percentage, which looks real nice. Looks real nice to see that 68 to 72% number. You go, man, what's in the water in Cincinnati? I'll tell you what's in the water in Cincinnati. They throw the ball behind the line of scrimmage. They throw the ball 2 yards upfield. They do not take shots. They have a number 1 overall draft pick that rarely airs the ball out. Meanwhile, I got to turn it on to like a Colts game or something and seeing a guy just drill it 40, 50 yards up the field after missing all last year. Play calling is terrible. Jesse Bates made Lou Anarumo look like a genius. I just want to say that. I will also say the defense got significantly better in the second half. Far too many missed tackles. Far too many. Man, even the guys that play good, like Trey Hendrickson was like half a step from getting 4 or 5 sacks. Didn't happen. Dax Hill missed some, and listen, Dax Hill will miss a couple. He's switching positions, all that stuff, but you got to make those tackles. The Bengals couldn't hold on to the ball. Now, there were a couple situations where the game got taken out of the Bengals' hands. There was a drive in which Joe Burrow pretty well threw 3 touchdown passes and none of them counted. There was a throw to the end zone in which Trenton Irwin got mauled. Defender used him as a ladder and just threw him down. No call. Ball should have been on the 1-yard line right there. Right there. Then there was the Mike Gesicki touchdown. Dude's got to secure that ball. That's on him. Then Tanner Hudson would have got in had he just held the ball. I defended Tanner Hudson an awful lot. Lifelong practice squad guy who would be here and there. Last year, he came in, and the Cincinnati Bengals upped their tight end game in many ways. Pardon if there's some dead air. I got some sinus infection stuff going on. They upped their tight end game. If you've listened to this show ever before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They weren't throwing to tight ends like the first 7-8 weeks. Not much anyway. And we know the Bengals' line of thinking with tight ends. It is show out here, make a couple $1 million, maybe $1 million, and then go make 7 or 8 somewhere else. Then they drafted a couple this year. Eric All looks really good. He looks like the type of guy you want him to look like. He blocked really great. Drew Sample was given an amount of money that was very confusing to me. And that's because Mike Gesicki is going to line up in the slot quite often. I thought Yoshi Voss looked good. I don't care whatever the Bengals' issue is with Jermaine Burton. If you are missing T. Higgins, you need a guy like Jermaine Burton in who can make plays. The Bengals have instilled this conservative culture with play calling, with taking risks, with using some players that probably should be used more. And it has really cost them a lot of games. The Cincinnati Bengals should have won this game. Now, I believe they should have won it because there was a DPI missed in the end zone, but I still would not have been satisfied with a 1-point win. Should not have been a 1-point win. There was the Charlie Jones interception, or not interception, fumble that put 3 points on the board for the Patriots. It shouldn't have been a 4-point win either, despite those 2 fumbles, which took 7 points off the board for the Bengals, put 3 on for the Patriots. A DPI missed call could have put 7 on there. It's the same 7 that Tanner Hudson literally fumbled, though. The fact that this is even a 4-point game was embarrassing for the Cincinnati Bengals. Even without T. Higgins, without their 2 rookie defensive linemen for depth, without Amarius Mims, who, by the way, the sooner he gets healthy and can play, the better, based on what I saw to Trent Brown. I know I'm trailing off here, but there's so many issues with what we saw. And it starts at the top. It starts at the top with the play or the culture. Pay Jamar Chase. That's where we're going to start this. Pay Jamar Chase. He's only going to get more expensive. You're going to have to spread it out over fewer years. You're going to lose out on more players. So there's that. But also, why are you... I can see what happened here. The Bengals wanted to get ahead of CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson and Brandon Ayuk. So they approached Jamar Chase in the spring and said, let's get a deal done. Jamar said, well, I was going to wait till next year, but since we're talking, let's wait until these deals are done. Then when they reset the market, the Bengals all of a sudden were like, that's a lot of money. But that's the game, brother. That's the game. He's not getting any cheaper. T. Higgins just got more expensive as well. And as a result, Jamar Chase didn't handle it well either, didn't practice. I've got plenty to say about that, the pressers afterwards as well. But that's where it starts, the culture. Being woefully unprepared on an annual basis. Cincinnati Bengals fans should not accept the fact that they're just going to lose week 1 every year. Shouldn't happen. Having the amount of injuries that they have show me woefully underprepared too. 3 touchdowns on 1 drive, none of them counted. As I mentioned, Hendrickson missed on a lot of those near sacks. The defense looked slow. Dax Hill missed a lot of tackles. There was cowardly play calling. Punting at the end of that game should be a major question. And Zach, after the game, oh, we're going to trust our defense. No. You trust the quarterback who is getting paid in a couple years about as much as everybody on that defense combined. That's who you trust. You put the ball in the hands of that quarterback who signed a record-setting deal. And you think, you know what? Maybe he can get it to this other guy who's about to sign a record-setting deal. Maybe that's who you put the game in the hands of. Not the defense that was in shambles in the first half. Not the defense that was among the lowest ranked last year. What about the guy that is considered the second best quarterback in the NFL by many, throwing to a guy who considers himself the best wide receiver in the NFL? By the way, getting your chats in, guys. Does Burrow take some blame for that last drive? Come on, any other star QB would have said, nah, Zach Taylor, if we're going for it on 4th and 5. Yes. It's Joe Burrow's job to lead these drives. At some point, Joe Burrow is either doing one of two things, saying, I feel a lot more comfortable throwing these screen passes behind the line of scrimmage, because he knows the issue. Go back on the Common Bengals W Twitter. It's something that I've bitched about for a year and a half. The bubble screens, the short yardage. Air it out sometimes. These are NFL players. Why can't we beat Jacoby Brissett? Jacoby Brissett can't keep a full-on starting gig, but he can whip the Bengals' asses every time he plays them? What are we doing? I will say this. The D-line got better as the game went on. This was Tanner Hudson's worst game, Charlie Jones's worst game. Charlie Jones was not good as a punt returner. The dynamic kickoff thing, listen, Bengals need all the help they can get on field position. So if people want to kick it through the end zone every time and give the Bengals the 30, probably best, because there's a good chance they don't make it there on their own anyway. Charlie Jones should not be returning punts against the Chiefs. It should be somebody else. Tanner Hudson, I strayed so much from my point because I was frustrated. He's a guy that I spoke very highly of before the season. I thought he did great last year. He made the most out of every opportunity. He performed whenever we needed him to perform. Catch rate increased exponentially. This and his reasoning afterwards. I didn't know there was anybody around me. You play like you know there is. Where did he think all the defenders were? What? He should not. He was lucky to be on this team. He was lucky to be on this team last year. He performed his way into this spot. And he quite literally fumbled it. The Bengals got outcoached by rookie everything. Embarrassing. Cowardly play calling. A thing that Joe Burrow needs to do, even though Evan McPherson made the kick, Evan McPherson, his job is made more difficult by Joe Burrow constantly getting sacked almost just out of field goal range. It happens a lot. Feels like it happens about a dozen times a season. And it happened here. Fortunately, Evan McPherson making that money. Good on him. That was fine. So, something that we have to talk about is Joe Mixon. I was not convinced that Joe Mixon would succeed in Houston because of what we have seen the last 2 years in Cincinnati. So, listen. Joe Mixon said, I'm going to leave them in the dust just like they left me. I'm like, listen, man. The reason he got up to 4 yards of carry is because they fed him the ball an awful lot, and he had a great game in a pointless Week 17 game against the Browns. Otherwise, those numbers would not look so good. He was very close to losing his starting gig to Samaje Perine a couple years ago before that 5-touchdown game. He preserved it. The Bengals already had to give him a pay cut. It wasn't working in this system. Well, as it turns out, having a good offensive line and taking snaps under center is greatly beneficial for Joe Mixon because he went off. Why will Joe Burrow not take snaps under center? I mean, occasionally he does. But you're pretty well telegraphing things and making it easy for the defense if you never go under center or rarely go under center. Worked out really well for Joe Mixon. We see how he performs in that system. In the Cincinnati system, it just wasn't going to work. Joe Mixon would not have had success. When I looked at his plays yesterday, and you can go back and look at him, he wasn't faster. In fact, he looked a little bit slower, but things opened up for him more. Zach Moss had a great game. If you are going to throw the ball 2 or 3 yards, I would just assume you hand it to Zach Moss at this point. Chase Brown is kind of inconsistent. Zach Moss looked really good. After those first 4 carries, he had the drive that ended in the touchdown. He looked really, really good. This is what we needed. We needed somebody with some explosivity. We needed somebody who could peel off some 15, 20-yard runs if need be, because Joe Mixon wasn't doing that for the Bengals. Now, if Joe Mixon is able to consistently do that for the Texans, I think you have to point directly at the coaching. Because I had pointed the finger at Joe Mixon. And I hope I'm wrong because he was a great teammate. He had his issues, great teammate. But I think Zach Moss was really good. I'm not looking at losing Joe Mixon yet as oh man, they need to allocate that money elsewhere. Ryan Rico, boy, if there is one thing that I said all last year and through training camp, it is that the Bengals needed a new punter. And listen, I was banging the Drew Chrisman drum for a while, but I mean, this dude got cut from the AFL. He's doing great on social media, but Brad Robbins is bad. I think one of his family members dropped into my tweets or my replies on Common Bengals W during the preseason, but he's bad. He's not good. And then Ryan Rico comes out, and thank God we got a good punter because it looks like we're going to need one. Oh boy, is he going to get some snaps in Kansas City, brother. He uncorks a punt that goes 80 yards. To be able to flip the field like that is great. Now, it went into the end zone, and I mean by a hair. But what does it say that the Bengals defense, the special teams unit couldn't even get there to it? He is great. He just took that job from Brad Robbins. If Brad Robbins comes back, barring some collapse of Ryan Rico, and they put Brad Robbins in, I got real problems with this. Real problems with this. Orange out looked good. Cool. I'm glad the Bengals do that. That's fine. So, I saw a lot of things where people are like, man, the Bengals are missing DJ Reader. Well, apparently not. He didn't play this week. I want to see how he plays first. I want to see how he does for the Detroit Lions. Because every year that we had DJ Reader, he was missing games. And here he is already missing games from the injury last year. I will pump my brakes on the we're missing DJ Reader thing. I think we were definitely missing our very early defensive line draft picks. Jay Tufel or whatever his name was played really well. Really well. Linebackers got to get faster. Otherwise, Njong Meta is going to take your job, buddy. Do you know how embarrassing it is that Joey Chestnut outscored the Bengals? He literally ate 18 hot dogs during halftime of the Bengals game. We got outscored by him. I believe that Jesse Bates made Lou Anarumo look like a genius. And I believe last year Lou Anarumo coached himself out of head coaching jobs because nobody was talking about him leaving after last year. It was really, really bad. It was really bad. Then I saw, the pressers afterwards, and it was, "Oh, we gotta execute better." No shit, Zach Taylor. You need to prepare better. You need to prepare better. With Joe Burrow, well, we'll watch the film. Yeah, I know you're gonna watch the film. Maybe why do you all start slow every year? Jamar Chase, why did he only get 6 receptions? He said, "You'll have to ask Zach Taylor that." No, he was asking you. Guy was asking you. Guy who didn't practice. Guy who wasn't in training camp. He was asking you. Do you know why? Did the coaches tell you why? I understand he's trying to get paid and he's worth it and he deserves it. But the aloof attitude, I'm like, man, why? They're doing their jobs. They're doing their jobs, man. That's it. They're not there to crucify you or anything like that. In fact, I would argue that the Bengals local media is very kind to Jamar Chase. And I just see those types of things, and I'm like, man, come on. What are we doing? They're there trying to get their quotes and do their jobs and ask questions that so many of us Bengals fans have. I'm sure he'll be happier once he gets paid, but I just saw that and I was like, okay, sure. The Bengals, man. What is it? Why can't they get the Chase deal done? Like, part of me wonders, do they have the cash for escrow? They can't take pictures of people walking across the street to practice. Hey, tough shit. Tough shit, Bengals. If I'm there publicly, I will take a picture. Can't police that. You had to get shamed into getting a new locker room by a survey. Change the culture. Get some private investors if you need to. The Cincinnati Bengals fans deserve better than what they saw on Sunday. They packed the stadium. They filled the stadium. And what they got was no sense of urgency from the ownership. Terrible play calling from coaching. A quarterback who isn't throwing it more than 5 yards up the field. A running back who left town and went for 179 yards. One wide receiver injured, 6-7 time he's been out with a hamstring. That sucks. A rookie wide receiver that they won't put into the game. Another wide receiver who didn't show up to training or practice, and they can't get a deal done with. Injury to their rookie lineman. That sucks. Then on the defensive end, patchwork defensive. You let Jesse Bates go a couple years ago. You had to convert a safety to corner because you didn't sign a veteran corner. You're going to lose your slot corner next year. Hope you got a solution for that. Mike Hilton's going to go get paid somewhere else. He's already doing the chin scratch emoji. A tight end who just, here's the ball. Okay. Punt returner who can't hold on to the ball, can't move forward when he catches the ball. I thought we were done with that with, what was the fella's name a couple years ago that was doing cartwheels and Beverly Hills Cop rolls and all that stuff when he was returning punts. Who the hell was that? Wasn't good. Thought we were past that. Thought those days were over. Apparently not. Apparently not. They never start fast. They never start fast. The Cincinnati Bengals are almost a foregone conclusion that they're 0-2, right? Weren't the Bengals the only team to vote no for private investing? Yep, they sure were. They sure were. And it looks like they need it. Looks like they need it. I think they've made some savvy deals. But my God, man. It's just disappointing. Every year, the same thing. Disappointing. Now, if the Bengals can somehow come back and beat the Chiefs, which I do not expect to see at all, then maybe you'll walk me off the ledge. Trent Taylor was the punt returner that would just do all kinds of wacky shit. He would churn his legs and churn his legs and churn his legs and then not go much of anywhere. I think he played for the Bears last year. Disappointing, man. Colby says you paid $72 for a burger and a water yesterday, so I'm sure they can afford a new deal for Chase. Yeah, so what I did, I got 2 bottles of Pepsi Zero, 2 of these Life Waters this size, 2 burger, chicken strips, 2 fries. It was $72. If that was $32 somewhere, I'd be like, wow, that's steep. Tell me you can't get that deal done? Oh, brother. Oh, brother. At this point, I guess they pushed Jamar's contract to 25. Yeah, where they can spread it out. They can't add signing bonus to this year. It's going to cost more next year. He's very clearly having some motivational issues. I don't know, man. I'm disappointed. Israel, I'm with you. Burton needs to play week 2 if T is out. Don't care if he's sleeping in meetings. We need him. So my line of thinking with T saying that he's healthy was he felt like he could play this week, and obviously it would have changed the game. But they probably wanted him more healthy for week 2 than week 1. Somebody asks if the Bengals start 0-3, is it time to be worried? Yeah, if they start 0-3, you got to be talking about head coaching changes. If they start 0-4, Zach Taylor's got to go. He's got to go. Just can't be there. I'm tired of a team with this talent playing scared. They are going to get mollywopped on Sunday. They are going to get an ass kicking of legendary levels by the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs have a good culture. They are prepared. They aren't afraid to do things. Their quarterback reacts in a wise way. And also, they get some calls. Let me tell you. Bengals fans shouldn't be subjected to this after the terrible years they were subjected to. Now, we've been very fortunate that for 20 years now, the Bengals have not had to worry about quarterback. Even when a backup's had to come in at times, John Kitney did okay. AJ McCarron did okay. Jake Browning did as well as you could ask for in that position. It's just wildly disappointing to see the Cincinnati Bengals every year dig themselves a hole. Guys, I want to thank you all so much. My allergies are killing me right now. I'll be back here probably Sunday night. Depressed as hell. We're out.